He was a man everyone recognized the moment he walked into a room. A CEO, a millionaire, a name that carried weight in every board meeting and business magazine. But none of that mattered when it came to one person in his life, his little daughter, the child who lived in her own world, who rarely spoke, who found comfort only in patterns, textures, and familiar faces. She was autistic, and he loved her more fiercely than he loved anything he owned. For her, he would have given up every company, every award, every ounce of pride he carried as a powerful man. That afternoon, he arrived at the company earlier than usual, hoping to surprise his daughter with her favorite snack. She often stayed in the daycare room on the first floor, where a few staff members were assigned to watch the employees' children. He expected to find her sitting alone in a corner, quietly tracing her fingers on the patterns of the wall, something she always did to calm herself. But the moment he stepped inside, he stopped. His daughter wasn't alone. A woman in her early 30s knelt beside her, holding her hands gently, guiding her movements. She wasn't forcing conversation. She wasn't overwhelming her. She simply sat in the child's world, speaking in soft tones, carefully matching her pace. And for the first time in weeks, his daughter wasn't hiding. She wasn't scared. She was smiling, a small, fragile smile, but a smile nonetheless. He watched silently from the doorway, stunned. He had seen therapists struggle to make her comfortable. He had seen specialists try to engage her with charts and exercises that only frightened her more. But this woman, this employee he had never seen before, had somehow slipped past all the walls his daughter kept around herself. The moment the child noticed him, she ran into his arms, holding onto him tightly. And instead of retreating into silence, she pointed at the woman and whispered a single word that made tears sting his eyes. Friend. He wanted to thank the woman, but before he could approach her, his phone buzzed. It was an urgent call from the boardroom. With a quick, appreciative nod toward the woman, he rushed upstairs, intending to return as soon as he could. But meetings stretched longer than expected. Hours passed. By the time he came back downstairs, the daycare room was empty. His daughter had gone home with the nanny, and the woman who had helped her was nowhere in sight. He found that strange. Something inside him nagged. He wanted to know who she was, how she had helped his daughter so effortlessly, and why no one had ever mentioned her. But it wasn't until he heard raised voices near the staff exit that everything went silent inside him. A woman was standing there, trembling, holding a small cardboard box filled with her belongings. Two supervisors were speaking to her harshly, accusing her of overstepping, of making the company liable, of interacting with a child without permission. She tried to explain that the little girl had been distressed, that she only wanted to help, that no one else had stepped in. But the supervisors didn't care. They handed her a termination paper and pointed toward the door. He recognized her immediately. She was the woman who had helped his daughter. He saw the devastation in her eyes, the shock, the humiliation, the confusion. She wasn't fighting back. She wasn't arguing. She simply stood there, clutching the box to her chest, tears escaping despite her efforts to remain composed. She had shown kindness, offered comfort, given his daughter a rare moment of safety, and this was how she was repaid. Something inside him snapped. He stepped forward, and the supervisors froze when they saw who he was. The woman quickly wiped her tears, trying to straighten herself, not wanting to appear weak in front of the CEO. But he wasn't looking at her with authority. He was looking at her with realization that he had just witnessed something unforgivable. He asked calmly, "Why is she being fired?" The supervisor stuttered, scrambling for excuses, talking about protocol and liability. They said she had no clearance to interact closely with a child. They said she crossed boundaries. They said it was a necessary decision. But the more they spoke, the colder his expression became. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply looked at them in a way that made them fall silent. Finally, he turned to the woman. "Is it true?" he asked softly. "You helped my daughter today." She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. She was overwhelmed. "I just didn't want her to feel alone." He felt his throat tighten. His daughter rarely connected with anyone. She rarely trusted strangers. Yet this woman had reached her, so easily, so gently. She didn't see a CEO's child. She saw a scared little girl and acted with pure instinct and heart. He swallowed hard. "And they fired you for that?" She hesitated, then nodded again, looking down. He stepped closer. "Do you need this job?" he asked, not out of pity, but concern. She nodded once more. "It's my only income." He looked at the supervisors, then back at her. What he said next made everyone freeze. Then allow me to correct their mistake. You're not fired. The supervisors began to protest, but he raised a hand and they fell silent. His tone remained calm, but carries the weight of finality. You are now officially part of my daughter's personal support team, he continued. Full salary, full benefits, and training from the best specialists if you need it. The woman's eyes widened in shock. She blinked rapidly, unsure if she had heard correctly. But he wasn't finished. And as for whoever signed her termination, he added, turning to the supervisors with piercing clarity, you're relieved of your authority until further notice. We do not punish kindness in this company. Not today. Not ever. The staff members stiffened, realizing the consequences of their carelessness. But he didn't waste another second on them. His focus remained on the woman standing in front of him, still holding her small cardboard box, unsure whether to cry or smile. Please, he said gently, come back with me. My daughter needs someone like you. As they walked back inside, he learned that she was a temporary employee, just filling in for someone that day. She had no background in special needs care, no training in behavioral therapy. She simply understood emotions deeply, and she acted out of compassion, not obligation. For years, he had seen employees obey rules, follow protocols, stay within their job descriptions. But he had rarely seen someone act from the heart with no fear of consequences. When they reached his office, he offered her a seat and asked her to tell him everything, how she noticed his daughter was struggling, how she approached her, how she calmed her. She spoke with genuine sincerity, describing small details she had observed, details most people ignored. She spoke like someone who listened to emotions, not instructions. He realized something then, this woman wasn't just someone who helped his daughter. She was someone who saw her. Truly saw her. Not as a problem, not as a burden, not as a diagnosis, but as a child with a world of her own. And that was something money could never buy. Later that evening, when his daughter returned, he brought the woman to her gently. The child paused for a moment, her eyes noticing a familiar presence. Slowly, she reached out her small hand and touched the woman's fingers. The connection was instant, warm, genuine, and for the second time that day, his daughter smiled. He felt something break inside him, not pain, but gratitude. For years, he had wished for someone who could understand his daughter without overwhelming her. Someone who could step into her world instead of forcing her out of it. And now, by pure chance, or perhaps destiny, he had found that person. As he watched them interact, he realized that titles meant nothing in moments like these. He wasn't a CEO. He wasn't a millionaire. He was just a father, witnessing a miracle unfolding through simple human kindness. He approached the woman quietly and said, "Thank you. You did more for her in one day than many have done in years." Her eyes filled again, but this time with gratitude, not sorrow. And in that moment, he understood one universal truth. Success wasn't measured in profit, power, or prestige. Sometimes, success was measured in the smile of a child who rarely smiled. In the courage of a woman who chose compassion over fear. In the willingness to defend kindness, no matter the cost. From that day onward, she wasn't just an employee. She became the person his daughter trusted most. And he made a silent promise to himself. He would protect her kindness with the same strength she used to protect his daughter's heart. Because some people walk into our lives quietly. And yet change everything without even realizing it.